Hello traders, my quick morning video. So far this morning, I'm going to start with the VIX futures. Markets are up, but we had a contract row yesterday in the VX futures, so it got a natural pop into the new expiration. And basically, we haven't sold off anything, one penny since the roll in the contract, and that's despite the markets being up this morning. So the markets have insurance under them, or risk aversion underneath of them, and they're not taking their, they're not willing to dump their insurance for today so far this morning in the markets. And the volumes are extremely low. We're not even 500,000 contracts on the SPY yet. It's going on close to 830, and not even 500,000 contracts. So very low volumes at these range highs in the markets. The bulls and bears are slugging it out, trying to decide which direction to go, and a lot of the larger investors are just standing back until trend resolves one direction or the other. So yeah, we're just kind of trapped in a range right here. Okay, what's really important to watch in the morning, and that's your bonds. And we have a bid underneath our bonds starting our day off. We came down here in the overnight session, and I was actually putting some charts out thinking we were going to break down. We had the German GDP numbers come in. They missed expectations, and basically they came in at 0% GDP for last quarter, or last quarter. Well, the problem is, anytime a government reports 0% GDP, there's a very good chance they've manipulated the data, because as an elected official, you do not want to see negative GDP on the books. So basically, what they do, and just this is universal, whenever you're getting that close to the line, say like within 0.5% of negative GDP, they start pushing off a lot of the components on their GDP numbers, and they report them the next quarter forward. So despite the fact that we got a 0 GDP in Germany, it's likely much worse than what was reported. So I just wanted to point that out, and right after that report, that's when the bonds started taking off here. So I have a bearish bias into the day, and the markets are setting up that way, despite the fact the bid in the markets early on in the morning session. I wanted to start with a quick rundown on the internals. These grids don't actually start working until the market opens. But down here on the bottom grid, you see you got a bid in the IWM. And once I delved down into the IWM on the volumes this morning, I do not see this as a supported value in the Russell this morning. What's driving the Russell up mainly, there's a slight bid in the financials and the crude oil space. But when I did a scan, neither one of those are throwing up as leaders on the board for volume this morning. As you can see for my Russell 2000 scan, all the leaders on the volume board this morning, they're earnings related, but the things that were actually supporting the Russell, the financials and the crude oil space, look at this, they're not even showing up in the top of the Russell. So I do not think that there is a sustained bid in the morning session going into the open. The highest volume this morning on the Dow Jones, that's CocaCola. And as you can see, it's a sell signal on CocaCola. And they specifically cited currency risk going forward. That was one of the biggest draggers on their forward guidance for Coca-Cola, because the dollar has so much relative strength. So that's a situation we have to worry about with our XLP, consumer staples. We're probably going to see a lot of relative weakness in consumer staples today, based off the talk out of Coca-Cola. Now, our ES futures do have a bid so far this morning. I just want to point out this is our S&P 500. But we are above yesterday's developing value area. So we are right here, right now, we are trying to shop for higher prices. We were at yesterday's highs right here, right now. And we are still above this week's weekly market maker move high. So this was the highest we were supposed to get this week. 27.46 was what the option sellers were pricing in for this week. So we are extended above what the expectations for the week were. So I consider that a very weak hand for the longs, with some not so great data hitting the tape, in my opinion. There were some really good earnings, but economic-wise, some weak data hitting the tape. And then I want to mention the $1 million S&P 500 component, CenturyLink. It's on a sell signal. Then the second one, the second highest, CocaCola, on a sell signal. So basically, the two highest volume securities on the S&P 500 here in the pre-market session are on sell signals. They sold off on earnings. So I do want to point that out. Now, Cisco is the outlier. But look at that. You know, the volumes are half of that of the selling volume. And that's typically something you really want to look for, that the buyers seem to be shut off here in the pre-market session. And the sellers actually have some juice based on the volumes that are hitting the market. And then for the week, the Nasdaq 100 is showing, or the Nasdaq views, but showing the most relative strength of all the major indices this week. We are putting in value above the weekly, the market maker move. It looks like we're getting some selling pressure right here early on. Cisco was a very powerful earnings results last night, but it looks like we are threatening that trend right here at 8:30 in the morning already, the uptrend. But we are inside of value for the day on the Nasdaq, and still above the market maker high. So like I said, still I think there's a lot of weak hands in the market. There was news out this morning, a huge major holder of Amazon had to report a 5G filing or something like that, and they sold half their stake in Amazon this morning. So news like that is not conducive of a bullish trend for the day. And if you look at the volumes on the NASDAQ, despite the fact they were showing relative strength, the volumes are far lower here on the NASDAQ versus the other indices. I do want to point that out. We're even getting less participation at these high price points in the NASDAQ. And that's a red flag, in my opinion, the NASDAQ being a tech and a volume coming in NASDAQ first, seeing it having far lower volumes today is a major red flag, in my opinion, that is going to lead to the downside. Okay, and that's pretty much all I got to say today. I don't want to get into too much here, but I have a bearish bias today, and that's the only type of trades that I'm looking for, because we are beyond the market maker moves, and I do not see, despite all the news and headlines, I don't see any volume catalysts in the pre-market session, with the exception of Tesla. There was news out on Tesla. To me, it's not a long, based on my technical analysis, but there was a bullish segment. A huge investor had to do a filing. They bought a 5% stake in Tesla. So that was a headline for a bullish scenario for Tesla. Like I said, I think the markets are on a sell signal, so I do not want to participate myself. Okay, good luck, and I will see you throughout the trading day.